electric blue look appeared. And of course, thinking that Byrne was the first artist to pencil the post crisis Superman, at least in a major publication, the way Superman appeared now in 95, 96 by Byrne, it looked really wonky. It was inconsistent. There were traces of uh, the look Byrne gave to Superman in Man of Steel, but it just didn't feel the same. And then later, when Superman made a couple more appearances in his electric blue look, um, it looked a little more cartoony, in fact. And I don't want to say that um, Byrne was lazy during his 3 years. I certainly don't want to argue that, but I would say that being the writer, the penciler, and the inker didn't help Byrne in terms of time constraints. I mean, in one interview, Byrne proudly stated words to the effect that he was doing everything on the title except stapling the darn thing together, which was an over exaggeration. Patricia Mulvihill was the colorist, and Paul Kupperberg was the editor, but still, each month, the cover, which were also penciled by Byrne, proclaimed Wonder Woman by John Byrne, and nobody else was included in the credits on the cover. And Byrne has always prided himself in being someone who is on time. So I don't want to say that he was rushing so much, but certainly in order to be a writer, a penciler, and an inker, you do really have to budget your time. And it'd be really nice to see what Byrne's Wonder Woman book would have looked like if he had someone like Terry Austin inking over his work. I think, at least from a visual standpoint, there would be fewer complaints on the part of so many readers. In terms of his writing style, I certainly don't think that he was rushing there at all. In reading so much online, I never heard somebody complain that Byrne was rushing to get stories out. Like many of his other books, Byrne's Wonder Woman could be very wordy at times, but certainly the stories were pretty well flushed out. So let's get talking then about concepts before we get into the stories. So to put a real stamp early on his mandate and to show that this was his title now, Byrne relocated Wonder Woman from the real life city of Boston to the fictional Gateway City. And as he described it in different text panels throughout the run, Gateway City was a city that had seen better and brighter days. It wasn't so crime-riddled or filled with corruption as, say, Gotham or Hub City, but it was certainly a city that had seen its glory days long past and was in real need of a hero like Wonder Woman. As well, it became clear right from the start that Wonder Woman was not in Gateway to continue her mission as a diplomat and as an emissary of peace. She was there as a straight-up superhero. However, she was not to be considered a vigilante or a street-level vigilante like, say, Batman. And so Byrne introduced a number of characters to Wonder Woman's supporting cast, and one of the first characters we were introduced to was an officer, Mike Shore. And he was a well-respected member of the Gotham City Police Department, probably in his, I'd say his mid 30s. Certainly well built, physically fit. Definitely not in the same power level category as Wonder Woman, but Mike Shore very quickly became a trusted friend and confidant of Diana's, and he was there throughout pretty well her entire run. I'm trying to think of how many issues he did not appear in during Byrne's 3-year run. Early on, I think a lot of fans were expecting that Mike Shore would be kind of like a new Steve Trevor. Of course, Steve Trevor was off the tables in terms of being a love interest because he had also been revamped by George Perez. In the post-crisis continuity, Steve Trevor was much older than Diana. It was Steve's mother, Diana, who died helping the Amazons. And that was what inspired Hippolyta to name her daughter Diana. So in the post-crisis continuity, Steve Trevor viewed Diana as his quote-unquote little sister. And during both the Perez and the Maslow eras, Wonder Woman did not have a love interest. So now fans are probably thinking, oh, okay, this is it. And what I really liked about Mike Shore was that he did not become a two-dimensional love interest. Certainly, during different issues throughout the run, Byrne would supply inner dialogue on Shore's part, or there would be scenes where Shore was speaking with another character in the title, and Shore would admit to having feelings for Diana, but at the same time, he recognized that he wasn't really in the same world as she was. Yes, they were on the same plane of existence, but Shore realized that he was a cop and she was somebody who had the powers of the gods. And so he saw her as having a much higher calling. And so he appreciated the fact that he could count her as a friend. He appreciated all that she did for his city, and so he made it quite clear that he wouldn't pursue any romantic feelings. What was important to him was that Diana was a friend and even a colleague. And so Shore's position as a police officer who was often by Diana's side was very important in terms of conveying to fans that Diana was not a street-level vigilante. I mean, yes, Batman over the years has had the support of Commissioner Gordon, but Gordon's had to be very careful in terms of how publicly he supports Batman, lest he be removed by the mayor on the charge of aiding and abetting a vigilante. Here with Wonder Woman, it was a very different story. Wonder Woman was well liked and respected by the Gateway City Police Department in general, and by Officer Mike Shore in particular. When I did a quick look at Comic Book DB, I found that Mike Shore has not appeared in a number of years. He appeared briefly once or twice after the Byrne run during the in-between period before Phil Jimenez came on as a writer-artist. And Jimenez used Shore maybe one time during his run. Just unfortunate that a really likable character like Shore hasn't been used anywhere else since. Okay, so I started talking about the supporting cast. So why don't I keep talking about supporting cast here? Because this is where Byrne's decisions did raise some feelings of contentiousness amongst the fandom. First off, he brought back a couple of pre-established characters. He brought back Artemis and Donna Troy. And Artemis went through a whole experience in the miniseries Requiem for Artemis, where she fought her way back to our plane of existence. And once she found herself back in the land of the living, she sought out Diana, and Artemis was, in a way, kind of like maybe like a Mr. Spock type character, where she was somewhat amused and confused by humanity. And so she was looking to understand humanity more. And she did become all soft and sunshine and lollipops during the Byrne run, but she certainly wasn't as hostile towards everyday people as she was depicted during Mesner-Lopes's run. She still had her social quirks. She still had the tendency to call people by their first name and their last name. And Donna Troy was actually one of the people to correct her on this and say, no, you call people just by their first name. Artemis was still a fierce warrior, though. And she had a good role to play during the Byrne run. Donna Troy at this time was depowered. Now, she was also revamped, or one could say given a proper origin, by Marv Wolfman post-crisis. In the post-crisis continuity, it was explained that Donna had been chosen by the Titans to be a seed. So she had been given powers by the Titans, and she began her career as Wonder Girl a good 5 or 6 years before Diana made her debut as Wonder Woman. So that kept all of the Teen Titans and New Teen Titans stories in continuity. And the fact that Donna had long dark hair, the fact that she physically resembled Diana, the fact that she wore a costume at one time that was primarily red, that had stars on it, that was all completely circumstantial. Now, there was no familial connection between Diana and Donna in the post-crisis reality. And during those, I guess you could say, a Copper Age, Donna did sacrifice her powers. She had been going by the name Troya, by the way, but once she gave up her powers, she went back to being Donna Troy. She joined the Dark Stars. The Dark Stars armored suit gave her powers needed to continue in her role as a superhero. But then with the Dark Stars being disbanded around the time of 0 Hour, Donna Troy found herself a mortal human being. And so she was looking for some purpose in life, especially since she was going through a rough time. Her marriage fell apart, and her ex-husband Terry won complete custody of their young son. And now Byrne also brought Donna Troy into the book because, as I'll talk about in part 2 of this episode, he had something bigger in mind for the character. The argument I'm going to be making in part 2 of this episode is that while he was at DC Comics, Byrne saw himself as something of a continuity master. It seemed between his work on Superman and Wonder Woman, Byrne saw certain issues in post-crisis continuity that were a result of taking away elements of pre-crisis continuity. And so while he was working on the Superman and Wonder Woman books, Byrne looked for opportunities to take elements of pre-crisis history and restore them, in his mind,